can't point it out.
Go visit your grandma and you walk into her living room and you see her charred ashes with only her limbs left because of spontaneous human combustion. Well, I'm doing my speech on spontaneous human combustion, and I picked this because it has always interested me, and I don't know that much about it because it's a phenomenon and it's so mysterious. So what you will learn from my speech is that you have to understand that everything is not explainable to the human mind. There are a lot of phenomena out there, and this is one of them. From my speech, you will learn more about what spontaneous human combustion is and the effects of it. Also, some theories and similarities in all the cases that have been studied. First, I'm going to talk about what spontaneous human combustion is and the effects of it. Spontaneous human combustion is the process of a human body catching fire as a result of heat generated by internal chemical action, which means basically the body burns from the inside. A weird thing is that when the body is usually found burned to death, the furniture that they were sitting in and the nearby things around them, even the clothes that they were wearing, are left intact, with only sparing like the limbs though, which is really, really weird. So all the cases that have been pretty much studied, all the limbs have been reduced to ash. There's been 400 cases studied and well documented. And an interesting fact is that bodies really don't burn. Crematoriums have to burn bodies for a really long time at high temperatures to reduce it to ash. Even if you pour like petrol over a body and you set it to fire, it will burn and you will kill someone. The person will die, but it's impossible for them to reduce it to ash because spontaneous human combustion has turned out to be murders sometimes because they've been burned because they pour gas over someone, but it turned out to just be murder because the person wasn't reduced to ash, which is really weird. So they ruled that out as a cause. Now that I've talked and you guys know about what spontaneous human combustion is, I'm going to tell you about some theories that scientists and researchers have come up with. One of the first beliefs a long time ago in the 1500s was that if someone spontaneously human combusts, it's a visitation from God, so therefore it's some form of divine punishment. But another theory rose up in Europe that needed a more like down-to-earth, real reason. So in the 1700s and 1800s, a popular belief that was spontaneous human combustion was done because of excessive drinking of alcohol, which is really weird, but unfortunately that couldn't happen because they thought that would happen, that somebody would become so saturated with alcohol that the body would spark into flames at any little tiny piece of fire. But that wouldn't be possible because a human being would die way before that would happen from alcohol poisoning, you think? Another theory is that from a professor at Brooklyn Polytech Institute thought that if you build up enough static charge to become lit combustible from electrical charge or anything, that they would combust. But researchers and engineers realized that there's no known electrostatic discharge that could cause a human to burst into flames. So it's not possible. There are three main arguments for the validity of spontaneous human combustion. And the first one is that the assertion that the victim must have been caught by surprise or the flames must have been very fast at their work, or the victim could have found some way to stop from being consumed. The other one is the assertion that there was no outside sources, such as like lighters or candles or heaters, that could have done this to someone. The third argument is that the person must have been consumed at an enormously high temperature because the body is composed of water, and it's really, really hard to burn like that. So, I don't know. Now that you know about some theories, I'm going to talk about some similarities and interesting facts in every cases that have been studied and they are that 80% of the victims are female. Most of the victims were overweight and or alcoholics. The body is very, very badly burned, but the room and everything in the room is intact except for a really fine layer of soot. And this is really gross, but there's a yellow, foul-smelling oil surrounding the body, and we figured that that's probably the fat that burned. The torso, including the chest and the abdomen and the hips, totally get consumed, but the limbs are left, the extremities and the head, and usually the clothes too, so like shoes and socks and stuff. The victim usually has always been alone in the cases that have been studied, so there was no hear of any screams or loud cries, which is really weird. And usually when a case has been found, people have been excessively drinking before, so they could tie that, but they won't study, researchers and scientists won't study every case in depth, which I think is really weird, because I think personally that they're scared to find out what they're going to see. So I don't know. In conclusion to my speech, spontaneous human combustion is not a scientifically provable theory, but however, there are cases after cases that have been studied, and people have really actually died from this phenomenon. So you be the judge. That's my speech. Now I have a video I want to show you guys, just like it's a little clip of some pictures of cases. It's kind of gross, so I can show you guys.
Actually,
Yet science can explain them all. All except perhaps this. Spontaneous human combustion. It is a phenomenon so bizarre and devastating, it causes the body to burst into flames and burn to ashes. The notion of spontaneous human combustion dates back as far as the late 15th century. The world's earliest known photo is of Mr. Albert Minster, who reportedly spontaneously combusted in a hayloft in 1888. The question is it real?
We've identified the next.
Do you guys have any questions?
where did you learn about this?
Like watching maybe like on TV when I was younger, like watching the Discovery Channel. I've always been interested in weird stuff like that, and I saw that, and I talked about with my mom, and it's just always been interesting because it's so weird.
And what's the name of the tape?
Strange. It's right back up. Strange Science, Unusual Things. We got it at the library. Believe it or not, there's like a lot of books on it too. I think it's weird that there's a lot of books because nobody knows anything about it. So.
But basically the only article I've ever read about it, the one in that one, they said that it was always like the head was the part that had burned the most, and it was like everything away from there, like the feet were all that were left.
Yeah, usually it's the legs.
abdomen was.
Yeah, well, it's the head that's burnt too, but always the torso is gone too.
Yeah, that was different from the one I've read.
Really, and there's also, which is really interesting, there's non-fatal cases on this video. There's non-fatal. People haven't died. They've like caught themselves on fire. So actually, on this video, if you guys want to check it out, there's a lady who started catching on fire. She didn't know what was going on, but she lived to talk about it, and she does.